Well, hello there. It's Amanda, Creative Gardener, and I'm out here in the garden, as usual, in my boots, with my tools. And I thought I would give you a quick update of the garden. But I'll show you what I was doing just now. I've got some passion fruit. They're vines now, and I had about 100 growing. 5 have survived so far. These ones are under attack by this kind of spiky looking brown um, caterpillar. And so I have to keep coming and picking them off, otherwise they munch on the leaves. But this vine has actually grown quite tall. Let me see if I can find where it's here. I've managed to get it to hook onto here. So the idea is it grows up this tropical black sage tree and then hangs down with all its yummy passion fruit. This is the yellow passion fruit vine that I've got here. So there's 2 in there, and I was thinking of moving them, but I think it's too late now. And then I've got 2 in here that I need to find somewhere to plant them so that they can get support, because they're a vine. So we'll just do a quick look around the garden and see what's happening. If you've looked back on other videos, you would have seen this area. It's kind of changed as the season changes. We're now coming into the rainy season. We've just had quite a lot of dry weather, and the plants were really suffering, but they had a good rain on last night, so they seem to have picked up slightly, and if it continues, then between the sun and the rain it's going to be lush. And I was just thinking about overwhelm, when it gets to that point where it's growing so fast you don't have a chance or to get round to everywhere before it then, places are like overgrown. So one of those areas that I'm having at the moment is with my clemmer cherry tree. My tool that's tall that I can reach the branches, one of the bolts fell out, and so it's actually trying to again take over. So we've got it growing here, and I need to chop those branches off, and it's growing over into the neighbours as well. Neighbours quite good in terms of, they'll just cut what's over their space. But I was looking here, and there's some strategic places. If I cut these 3, even maybe trim it there, this is this overhang. And then anyway, so you get the idea. There's like branches to cut back, but I use the branches in my deadwood hedge. But the clemmer cherry tree, it also had issues, and let me come out there. At one point all the leaves had fallen off, and they conveniently fell onto the paths, which when it rains it helps stop it getting muddy with coal running around and stuff. But it was unusual to see that happen, and all the leaves fell off of this particular tree and another tree that I've got behind me, another clemmer cherry tree. I've got 5 growing at the moment, but you have to kind of really control them because they do spread really rapidly, and then they have all these fruit. We've got all of these, all the little things that you can see, or maybe not, but it's got a whole bunch of the fruit that it has, and you can use it for jam. Many people know it as used for glue, for gluing kites, as you can see there. Okay, let's just swiftly move on. Here's the other clemmer cherry tree we have growing up there. It was in a pot. I'd removed it. It was in a pot, and if you look, it grew so quickly that the pot it exploded in the pot and then grew into the soil. So I haven't yet been able to remove that. There's a bit that's stuck that went down with the plant, the roots itself. Anyway, so let's move back. I'll show you. That's the on the other side of that is the organic farmer who hasn't been there for a while. So I'm contemplating, say, planting some fruit trees back there rather than just have the shack trees that are just, if you let them, the shack trees in the distance, is just going to come, and before you know it, this will be a shack tree forest. Anyway, so I've got another passion fruit vine growing in there. I'm thinking it's going to have to climb up the Quadrilla indica, which is in bloom because it's flowering. It's got a mixture of flowers and these pods which split open, and inside it's red. It's highly scented, so this area does smell divine. And where I thought the birds were taking away the seeds, they were just dropping them elsewhere in the garden. So I've got quite a few of these, and then some have dropped in strategic places, and I thought, well, let me just keep them at a particular height, have the scent in the garden. Mango trees. This mango tree started to flower, and this is the third time that it's flowered, but nothing's happened. I think it was just testing itself out. And then, obviously with the dry weather, it wasn't able to produce much fruit, any fruit, but they're the flowers on there. And I'm thinking this September I'll get, if not one, few fruit. We've got a couple more mango trees growing here and here, but they're nowhere near the size they need to be, as old enough as they need to be to start fruiting. But I've watched a video, I think I've mentioned it before, I watched a video on how to keep them at a particular height so that you can actually reach the fruit. I don't want them being a massively overgrown tree. The tallest tree I want in the garden at the moment is this. Ooh. There's a hummingbird sat still there. Let me see if I can. You see it? You don't normally see them sitting so still. This one's like, oh, I just want to have a little breather. It's so cool. They move so quickly. Sorry about that. Anyway, so this is my apple blossom tree. I don't know whether this particular one fruits. As far as I know, I think it's cassia something. But when I looked at the flowers, it looked like the flowers of the apple blossom tree. So if you know different, please do let me know. Leave a comment. But I'd been investigating what this tree was for quite a while. And yeah, I think it's an apple blossom tree. Yeah, so everything now seems to be, it's like, oh, we've had a good long drink last night. And this area anyway has always been the more established. This was the first part of the garden that I started working on. Some of the trees I've noticed with the moringa trees, they've started to lean, so this one I'll be cutting again, and there's a couple at the back there that need to be trimmed. And you've got all the drumsticks at the top hanging down there, and the parakeets love them. That's their source of food, so I just use the ones that are, in arm's reach, and use those in cooking. So elsewhere in the garden, yeah, it's coming on. My cassava was struggling, and then I realised I wasn't giving them enough water. The first year I must have planted them at the start of the rainy season, and so they had sufficient water, because I was just like, well, I'm not watering them, and they're fine. They're just, really growing. So these have kind of come back to life a bit. The other things that were struggling with the aloes, I do have a lot of aloes plants, and they're growing their babies. All of these along here started as just a single plant, and as you can see, they've all got multiple plants, which I'm going to separate. This one I'm going to leave as is, because when I tried to separate it, it just wasn't having it. So these ones, I've separated this one, it's grown 2 more. And all of these which need tending to. And so I've been having issues with a few different pests. My henna plant is in flower, so again this is highly scented. So the smells in this garden is just absolutely divine. And even the shak tree, as much as the shak tree, which you can see here, as much as it has a lot of the pods, and if you're not careful, you see all those pods, they need to go because they're full of seeds. So I'm telling it, if you can drop in clumps, then that saves me each morning when I come and clear up. So I've been having an issue with a couple of pests that I haven't identified them. And what they do is they strip off the bark of the tree. And what they've been doing, they've been stripping off the bark of, this is a river tamarind. It's another really fast growing tree that you need to have under control, otherwise that will take over. But they strip, don't know whether you can see it on here, they strip the bark and then the top of the tree dies. I don't know whether it's I thought it was like, it must have been a hungry monkey because I've got a few trees at the front there that it happened to, and I'm not, as I say. And then I noticed this one, and so it's something that's spreading throughout the garden. I noticed it on my guinnep tree. This is one of my guinnep trees. It's hard to see now because the sun is coming out. I love the look at. I was going to say feel. It's so smooth. The bark of the guinnep tree is so lovely. Anyway, so it had done that to some of the trees. Then the other thing is, I think it was white fly or green fly, and it attacked the tips of my curry leaf plant. So all of the tips had been damaged, and you might even be able to see some on there. What I've been doing is spraying it with neem. That seemed to help, but what I think I'm going to do is just trim off the tips. I wanted to more contain this, and I should have, when it was younger, kind of trained it a bit better. I don't want it spreading out so much. I want it to stay in this, like just in this kind of area, but I don't want it moving out like that. So I'm going to have to trim it. So neem on that seemed to work, and then the other pest, which is the hornworm. We have the frangipani hornworm, and every now and again I notice another green hornworm that it's just like, I don't know where you came from. But you just have to be vigilant, because they look like, they do look like the leaves. And if you're staring at a leaf and you just think, oh, that's an interesting shaped leaf, and then you realise it's a hornworm. Okay, so these have been revived again. It's traditionally it's called Jacob's coat, and I've cut this several times, and I try and keep it at this height because it can grow even up towards the trees, but then it just gets, scraggly down here. So I've just been keeping it at this height and trying to transplant any cuttings that I get. I've not really been successful in other parts of the garden, and it's funny that I was able to grow these from a cutting. There's like about 15, is there 15? But no, 7, 8, 9. 9 cuttings, and this was just the ideal place for it. The other thing that I'm really pleased about that's growing is my crinium lilies. So it's originally from that plant there, and I planted that from a bulb, and it's grown, and then at the bottom it usually pushes out some young, and then whenever a flower forms and I get a bulb, I've been planting them. So we've now got some additions to the family. Some are growing better than others. I thought at one point, oh, you like shade, but where I've seen them grow on the beach and they're in full sun, and perhaps it's just the water. So these are the smaller ones of the two that were struggling, but they seem to be growing back now. And I tried to take it all around here. So this is a third and fourth section of the garden. The neem trees are growing well. They need to be cut back. Everything, yeah. Oh, look at my noni. I've managed to get some glass jars to try and ferment some of the fruit. So I've got, say, 3, 4 on there that I can take this week before they drop. And then, yeah, all the aloes around here was really suffering and really need probably another day of rain before they start to recover. It's my moringa patch, and I've yet to still cut back. And again, once the rain starts in earnest, we'll be able to get more of the leaves on the trees. So that's it for this end of May. The one thing I would say again is I spend at least an hour, 2 hours every day out here. It's quite a big space to work on, and as I say, when it comes to the rainy season and everything starts flourishing, it can get overwhelming, but I have to remind myself what it's like in the dry season when everything's dying. And what I want to do to prepare for the next dry season, like we can see the aloes here, is to mulch around them so that they retain as much moisture as possible. The ones that have fared not too badly in all of this is the ones I've got growing along the side. So once they start to establish themselves along this set, I'm going to have, like you can see, they're all growing along here, and they all started as small plants. So with the next really big rain that we have, they'll all start to flourish again. But the ones in the more shadier spots, so under the trees by my passion fruit vine, they've been doing really well. You see how dry they get, and they all flowered. So this was awash with yellow flowers on the tall stems, and some had 3. If you see any of my shorts, you would have seen some of the flowers. But yeah, so just take your time in whatever space that you have. You know, you don't have to have a large space to grow something, even if it's just to grow flowers or to grow some sort of food. You know, you can get dwarf varieties. I'm just going to sit down here. Oh, dwarf varieties of many plants that you can grow in pots. The aloes, depending on the climate that you live in, you can grow as a house plant. There are many that grow as house plants. The the bay leaf. I've seen it grow in pots in the UK. Obviously, you know, you've got to have it in, say, like a patio or a porch or something like that. But think about all the smaller things you can grow. If it's tomatoes in a grow bag, or you know, again, peppers in a pot. And then if you've got more space, you need to tend to it every day, because they respond to care. And there are things that, if you want to have a organic space, that you're gonna have to pick off. Like, look, these pests that go on my passion fruit, I have to pick off with the tweezers, and then spray them. You know, spray them with the neem, spray them soapy water, some of them, like the pests on my curry leaf plant. But there's room enough for all of us, apart from the pests. I mean, the pests can provide food for the birds, and that's why I've got you know, various trees at various heights, and the pods up there on the moringa tree, it's just like, that's for the birds. I've got to provide a space where the birds feel comfortable, and then they will help with keeping the pest population down. Frogs, toads as well, the lizards. It's just like, yeah, providing water for the lizards, because I find in the dry season, when I was watering the plants, the lizards would just come, and, you know, where the water would kind of settle in a leaf, they would come and drink. And yeah, so they provide help as well. I don't know whether you can see one there. Let's see if I can give you a closer. Where'd it go? I think it's just jumped off. Anyway, but yeah, and the bats, and we have bats as well that live in my neighbour's garage, and I'm sure we've got one or two in our place under the house. But symbiotic harmony. Alright, so I hope that's been useful. This is the end of May garden tour. You've just seen this side. The other side is it's still really dry. And I'll talk about some of the plants another time back there. I'll introduce you to. Oh yeah, I've got some new plants as well. Some have been gifts, cuttings, and I brought some more seeds just to try. I want some flowers, more flowers in the garden. Okay, so I hope you have a blessed day, and I will see you another time. Take care.